This is a beginner Blender Python exercise where we'll go over how to make a camera track an empty, and at the end of the video I'll go over a couple more exercises to solidify your knowledge. Hey, I'm Victor Stepanoff. I'll be guiding you through this beginner Blender Python exercise. Today's video was inspired by one of the comments left in my previous videos. Thank you, Crazy Fanatic Man, for suggesting this topic. Let's get straight into the tutorial. We're going to go into the scripting workspace, and we will need to add a timeline right below the 3D viewport because we're going to do a bit of animation. All right, so leave it like so. I'm going to hit new right here to create a new script. Next, to save some time, I'm going to copy over some comments for us so we can follow them along. The idea here is pretty straightforward. We're going to add a row of cubes. We're going to add a camera. We're going to add an empty. We're going to animate the empty's location, and we're going to make the camera track the empty. The first thing that we usually do in any Blender Python script is we import BPY at the top. This is a module, a Python module that gives Python access to Blender's functionality, meaning that it allows Python to press Blender's buttons or execute some of the commands that Blender can do. Next, we're going to set up some parameters that help us control the script. For example, we're going to set the cube counts, and I want to add 10 cubes, so I'm going to create a variable and set the value to 10. I'm also going to set the frame count and set that to 300. So right now this is just a variable. It's not actually doing anything for Blender, right? To set the frame count, I'm going to go here and just move this a bit. And right here below in the in the info panel, we can see a command that set the frame count, right? I'm going to copy this just right here, and I'm going to replace this variable that we set and set it right here. All right, I'm going to just clear everything from the scene by hitting AX and then delete. And then I'm going to just run this script. So after I run it, watch how the number of frames change. All right, you can see that after I run it, the only thing that changed in our project right here is just the number of frames in the scene. Next, we want to add a row of cubes. To do that, let's first add a cube into the scene. We're going to do that by hovering over the 3D viewport and hitting Shift A to bring up the add menu. And I'm just going to select a cube. With this, I told Blender to add a cube, and we can see the command that we can do in Python right in the info panel. I'm just going to copy this right here and paste it right here. I'm going to remove everything, all these parameters except the location and the size. Maybe we can update that later. All right, so I'm going to select everything by hitting and delete everything by hitting AX and then delete, and run the script, and we get our cube back. But we want a row of cubes on the y-axis, so we need to use a for loop to do that. Right? We can of course do something like this by just copying a number of these statements and then maybe updating the y coordinate like so, and this will get us somewhere, but it's not going to get us far. Let's actually create a loop. So it's for I in range, and then I'm going to indent. So I'm hitting tab to indent, telling Python that everything under this indentation, so we can have multiple lines, this will be repeated however many times I put here in the range. So in this case, I'm going to use the cube count, and I'm going to just use this variable here. Let's clear the scene, and then run the script. So at this point, you think that it's just doing the same thing, but actually if we look into the outliner, it's adding a number of cubes right into the same place, right? This is not great because they're all overlapping. Let's try to fix that, and let's select everything and clear. I'm going to use this I variable right here that gets updated on each iteration of the loop. You can go into the interactive Python console right here and see how this I gets updated. So you can see it's going from 0 to 9. I think that let's just use this right here as the Y coordinate. Let's run the script, and you can see that there is some like cubes are getting added, but they are overlapping, right? So this is not what we want to see. So we need to add some spacing. So let's go back and let's maybe multiply this by 2. So let's rerun that. Okay, this is giving us a bit more space, but it's still I'd like some more breathing room for these cubes. So I'm going to set this value right here to 3. So let's check out what that's going to do. All right, you can see that this is spacing the cubes nicely right here, and I'm going to leave it at that. I'm actually going to create location offsets variable, right? So maybe in the future we would want to update this. I'm going to move this 3 right here and put it right here. Okay, next we need to add our empty, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to get the code for the empty the same way we did with cube. I'm going to hover over the 3D viewport and hit Shift A, and then hit a plane, get a plane at X empty. All right, it got added right here, and the code was added into the info panel right here. I'm gonna just paste this right like so. Actually, we can just delete all the parameters that are getting passed in, and they're going to be just set to default. Next, we need to create a variable that's going to allow us to access the parameters and set the properties of this object. And to do that, we'll need to grab the currently active object. So in the interactive Python console, let's check out the context and then the active object. Right, so this is the currently active object, and I'm going to use that to create a new variable and call it empty. I'm just going to copy this right below. I'm going to call this object empty, and now with this we'll be able to use this variable right here to do the location animation of the empty. So next, we need to animate the location property. So all the objects in Blender have a location property. We can use that like so. So let me just do the same thing here in the interactive Python console. So I'm going to create a variable empty. See if I just enter that, it gives me that object, and it has the location property. And to get these previews that I'm getting right here, I just type a bit and then hit tab, and that kind of shows me the possibilities that I can like enter in this interactive Python console. So the current location is that, and let's just maybe change the Z location. I'm going to set it to 0, and you can see that the location of the empty got updated like so. So we're gonna want to animate this, and to animate it we need to add a keyframe. So we need to add keyframe and then insert. When you're entering a function name, you can hit tab and get a full documentation string about what you need to pass in to this function. And this is what I'm doing right here. So I really need to set the data path, and I'll be using this frame right here. So I'm just gonna copy this and paste it right here. And for the data path, I'm going to be using location right here. Like this location is going to be the name of the data path. I'm going to put the quotes around it, making it a text or like a string. And I'm going to use the frame to insert the keyframe at a particular frame that I want. So in this case, I want to insert in the first frame. And let's actually delete everything and let's rerun the script. All right, so I'm gonna move this cube, and here's our empty, and you can see we have keyframe set at frame 1. And now let's do the same thing. I'm just gonna copy this and use the frame count and set that like so. Now let's delete everything and rerun script. And as you can see, we've selected the empty, right? It's the last thing that we're adding. So you could see already that there's 2 keyframes, one at the frame 1 and one at frame 300. That's great. Now I want to move the empty along the y-axis. I'm gonna just do something similar to this. I'm just going to copy the location modification code, just paste it underneath here. I'm going to change the Y. So when we insert the first frame, the location of the empty is at the center of the scene. And before we insert the second keyframe, we want to change that location. So I'm going to just use the location offset, and I'm going to multiply that by the number of cubes. So let's just do that. I'm going to delete everything and rerun the script. So let's make this a bit bigger. You can see that the empty is right here. So after generating everything is at the last frame, right? It's like the last thing. We move the empty, and then we set the last keyframe. So as soon as I press space, it's gonna teleport right here, and you can see how it's going through all these cubes, animating along the y-axis. All right, the next thing that we need to do is add the camera into the scene, and you guessed it, we're going to do it the same way that we did for the cube and the empty. We're going to hover over the 3D viewport, hit Shift A, and then find the camera and just add it like so. It gets added into the center of the scene. So if I pick up this cube, I'm moving the cube by hitting G and then moving it out of the way. So here's our camera. And now we can get the code, and it's going to be the code for this, for adding a camera into the scene is going to be in the info panel down below. I've already moved a couple of things, so I need to scroll a bit up. So here we go. It's object camera add. I'm going to copy this and paste it right here. I'm going to just remove, again, all the parameters are going to be set to default. I'm going to copy this getting the active object. So as soon as you add anything into Blender, that becomes the currently active object. In this case, it's going to be our camera. I'm also going to use the same method we used to set the location. So I'm going to set the camera's location on the X, Y, and Z. So I'm going to change these like so. So I'm going to set X to 15, Z to 2, and I'm going to try to put the camera in the middle. So it's going to be this offset right? And then just divided by 2. All right, let's delete everything from the scene, rerun the script, and let's see where the camera is. So it is right here, right? You can see how it could be tracking this empty. Right now it's looking down. We haven't really set anything. We haven't rotated it. So this is as expected. Let's go back. All right, the only thing that's left for us to do is add the constraint that will track the empty for us. I'm going to select the camera. Well, it's already selected, and go into the constraints right here. I'm going to add a new constraint, and I'm going to select to track. And then I'm just going to type in the empty that we're going to use to track. And you can see already that this scene got updated and the camera is looking already at the empty. So let's scroll to the very bottom and let's copy these 2 lines right here. Let's copy that and let's replace this part right here with the camera. And this is going to add the constraint, right? And then we're going to set the constraint, like what target we're going to be tracking. Here it's going to just use this empty, but in reality we can use this variable right here that we created, and it's going to result in the same thing. So I'm just going to paste that in. Let's clear the scene and let's rerun the script. And you can see it's already, the camera is already tracking that empty. You can look at this, right? The constraint was added and the empty was set as the target as we want it. All right, let's now hover over the 3D viewport and press Control Space. And we can actually press the 0 on the numpad. And I'm going to press space to start the animation. And you can see that the camera is tracking our empty going through all these cubes. And if you're learning something new today or just enjoying this video, make sure to hit the like button. It will help me tremendously. All right, and as promised, the exercise is to solidify your knowledge. For the first exercise, I want you to update the code of this script and make the camera move with the empty. So it's going to look something like this. So go ahead and try this on your own. Pause this video, and after you unpause it, I'll explain how I would have done it. All right, to achieve that result, I would have done the following. I would just delete this or comment this out. So we're going to be moving the camera along with the empty. I'm just going to copy this code that we already have for the empty. I'm going to paste it right underneath here. And I'm going to change the variable that we use for the empty and set it to the camera. Right. And let's see how that looks. I'm going to delete everything. I'm going to rerun the script. And let's take a closer look. And as you can see now, the camera is moving along with the empty. All right, and for your second exercise, I want you to try to achieve this scene right here. Pause the video now and try it on your own. All right, to achieve that scene, it's pretty straightforward. Instead of moving the empty along, instead of animating the empty, we're just going to set the location of the empty. So I'm just going to comment this right here. And we're just going to copy the location of the camera from our original scene. So let's delete everything and rerun the script. So as you can see, the camera is animating and we're tracking the empty that's in the middle of these rows of cubes. I plan to make another video that will transform this code right here and add some functions. We're starting to work with more code here, and I really want you to start getting used to creating functions. So that's what we're going to do in the next video. Make sure to subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching.